Hello, everyone. I should have got a bottle of water. Hold on, y'all. Let me grab my bottle of water really quick before we get started. Hey, y'all. My shelves look really good in this shot. I'm digging this background. Hello, hello. How is everyone doing this evening? This one tonight, y'all, is going to probably be a little shorter. Only because we are only discussing one volume, and it was a really, really quick read. I don't know about y'all, but it did not take me long to finish this. And I think I said that the last time we met, that the rest of the year was going to be kind of like easygoing. It wasn't going to be as intense because we were playing catch up during certain months, and now we're not playing catch up anymore, and so we're pretty lax right now. Moving forward for the rest of the year. Yeah, Jessica, you've been doing great with One Piece. I literally I decided to collect these, and I'm starting all over again. Because I'm further along, but I was just like, I'm gonna start over. Yeah, it was a quick read with lots of information and not necessarily what I was expecting. So let's go ahead and jump in. Tell me what you rated it, and what were your first impressions of it. I'll start and I'll say that I feel like every time I come here, I always have a rating, and then I never stick with that rating because I start talking to y'all, and then my rating always shifts or changes or does some type of flip flop. I'm gonna go with 3.5 to 4. Because I think the ending was a little chopped and screwed. I'm leaning more towards the 4. But I feel like that it's always when people do time jumps. Me and time jumps just don't work. Because anytime people do time jumps, I feel like, what the fuck? That's how I felt with this. I thought it was very, very interesting, though, and very, very much so connected to what we're seeing with book banning and challenging, which is so ironic that we picked this book and it just happened to fall during Ban Book Week here in the US. The timing was impeccable, I must say so myself. It was impeccable, my friends. Impeccable. Okay, let's see what y'all are saying. Yes, I am, and I do adore that insane creature. 4.5 stars, rated 4 stars. He likes it, but you want it more. Feel you. 3.54. Fortunate about me, the fire-headed young adult, and also the anger, anxiety over this election year. Listen, you ain't never lied, okay? Because this election year has all of us in a tailspin. Okay, Steph said 3.5. Scarlett, hello. Gave it 5 stars. Okay. Okay, so let's kind of just overview. I did not realize that this was going to be kind of like her experiences. Even though, reading the author's note at the end where she talked about the fact that it was spliced together in order to protect the individuals involved. And so it's a conglomeration of different events experienced by different people into these fictionalized um, characters. Um, I thought it was pretty intriguing that we start with this just seemingly general story of a a young adult headed to university, um, and yet when she attends university, there's a lot of protesting and uh, rioting and conflict with the police, and she does not understand why all of these things are happening. And even when she meets the people who are have a I guess you would say like a strong hand um, in what is happening, she still doesn't understand why they're protesting. And I like that it did take her a while to understand and connect the dots as to why they were doing what they were doing. And that it wasn't something, even though I think at some points, especially the point where everybody started going to prison, that's when they were like, it felt as though, what's the purpose? What's the point? Why is everybody putting themselves at risk? Are things going to really change? That kind of like that fatigue that can kick in, that feeling of defeat. Um, it was very, very interesting kind of seeing her move through their experiences until she reaches her own defining moment where everything kind of just snaps into place and it clicks and she's like, okay, I understand. And I think probably my favorite scene, the scene where I literally was like chuckling as I read through it, was when she was getting questioned by that officer and he was expecting her just to kind of rat out all of her friends. And she basically was like, yeah, you're supposed to be interested. And it kind of was like, it showed much bullshit, um, how much bullshit they were using as an excuse to say that everybody had these communist connections when really you have teachers, supposed to be educators, praying. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, with that teacher, I did not expect um I did not expect him to do that. I think that was the one part that really threw me for a loop. And I started to understand it a little bit when they were in the classroom and she had that copy of the Scarlet Letter that was kind of like carved out. I understood it then a little bit when he was like, I care about you, like let's go get coffee. It made me feel weird. But prior to that scene, I did not see him as predatory. And so I'm like that she used that very uncomfortable situation to prove to the police that you're worried about these so-called ties that students have to communists, yet you have predators who are supposed to be guiding and leading your newest leaders of this nation, and propositioning them for sex at a coffee shop to go to the hotel next door. Um, I was like, damn, well, that's a slap in his, and you could tell that he was kind of thrown like, oh, well, yeah, I guess we should be protecting y'all against that. But what about these clubs? What about, they've been forcing you to do this, and how she kind of flipped that whole entire scene was like, yeah, everybody's been forcing me to make these decisions, and this guy wants to have this romance. And yes, it was cute, Romeo and Juliet, and it was even like funny when she was like, thanks for listening to me. And he's like, do you know anything about like the communist regime? She was like, nope. And he's like, okay. Like, it showed just kind of the cracks in their witch hunt to find things that weren't there. But sorry, I'm gonna click on some of y'all's comments here. Gotcha. That makes sense, Scarlett. I'm not as familiar, so the time jump probably is me wanting more of those gaps filled in because I don't have that prior knowledge. Her arc was really, really good. So Shrek, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you'd be like, this really, I mean, I could see myself giving it fewer stars than 5, but I can't justify it, so I'm just gonna give it 5. I feel that. I didn't know what was going on until I read it. Connecting myself heard about the more driving history was there. Okay. Yes, she did. She completely flipped the script in a way that he didn't expect, and it was done in such a humorous, dramatic, like over the top way that it completely it was it, I loved it. Was more than this. Post protests left and right and in droves. It happened peacefully. Oh yeah. Yeah, I wasn't, and I guess there was a hinting to that at the end. But I am going to be completely honest with y'all. I was not aware of the violent history that exists. I mean, we're talking what this book takes place in the 80s. I was not actively aware of the violence that took place in the 80s in South Korea. Like that went right over my head. I was not familiar. So this was definitely like an educational point for me as well. What she did. She went full teenage girl moment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was quick with it. I mean, like really, and I had to think, like, damn, was she like in an acting club or anything like that, or a theater? Well, she was with the group, the drum group, and how they were performing. And I was like, yeah, she put on a full fucking performance, which was legit. See, I didn't. For me, I think when I saw him say like, "I'll keep you safe," I thought that he was like had the same thought process as the kids, and that's my oversight. But I was thinking when he said like, "I'll keep you safe," I thought he was saying like because of like in terms of her getting involved with these groups and stuff like that, like he would have her back for that process. But now like going back and looking at stuff like that, knowing that he was being predatory, I was like, it's fucking disgusting. Yeah, I thought maybe he was part of the resistance too, and just was gonna sit her down and be like, yeah, like, I know what you're doing. I'm doing it too. I just have to move differently because I answer to them directly. Like that's what I thought that moment was gonna be. Not no one has to know what happens behind closed doors. There's a hotel next door. Let's go screw. Like, bruh, disgusting. Like, I don't want to read it. Yeah, definitely. Pop, gonna. Thanks for keeping it real. I like that because the year I was born. Yeah, I learned a lot, and I loved how so many pieces and parts of this it was so easy to connect it back to what's happening here, and like we're not there yet in the sense that you will go to prison. Well, that's not true. That's not true. How do I put this? They are legally, or they have tried legally, and may still be legally attempting to imprison educators and librarians who give children access to materials that they consider to be inappropriate, which your mileage is going to vary on what you think is inappropriate, right? I know here, um, I think I've said this before. Some of you have probably heard me talk about this before, where they had a law where basically you would do time and or pay a fine if you were found giving, for lack of a better term, like inappropriate pornographic materials to a child. Um, and that materials in the sense of like books. And in that original law, school librarians, um, academic and public, were exempt from that law because someone can take a sex education book and consider it to be pornographic. Well, a couple years back, they want to go rework that law and take that exemption away to where any librarian who even thought about, which no one, you wouldn't, but it's this term of like inappropriate that I feel like is so broad and varies so widely depending upon like who you're speaking to, that if you were found doing things like that, that they wanted to be able to find you and give you 30 days in jail. And so I think people look at um, people look at stuff like this. I think Americans, because a lot of us are reading this from, I'm assuming there may be some of us who are not from like a Western perspective here, but a lot of us are probably reading this from a very Western lens and would think like, oh yeah, you know, like we would never get to that point. But unfortunately, we are at this point at a smaller scale. And it's very difficult. They've been having a difficult time getting stuff like that passed, but it is a thing that people are trying where they're criminalizing the ability to provide intellectual freedom, or allow intellectual freedom to exist in libraries. And so looking at this and seeing how bad it can get makes me so worried, because people sometimes don't take, either people who are engaging in book banning and challenging think they're doing good for the society, or there are others who are kind of on that spectrum of it doesn't affect me, I don't care. It blows my mind how you will willingly ignore how dangerous this slope is until there's no turning back. And the people, and I always say, and like I've said this in the past and I'll say it again, even though I'm not actively engaged in the booktube community in the traditional sense anymore, one of my issues has always been sometimes where I feel like we've been kind of lackadaisical in understanding how dangerous book banning and book challenging is, because we don't necessarily feel like our access has been completely cut off yet. But there's no, once one person's access has been cut off, what's to stop them from taking access away from the next person, you know? And it reminded me specifically of that scene where I don't know if she was ever named, but the girl who was always giving our main character a hard time, like when they were doing the drumming outside, when she ran into the bathroom and she accidentally dropped that piece of paper, and she basically was like, y'all just ruined everything. I'm here to get an education. And she said, and well, she looked at her and she said, well, you're reading what's the name of that damn book, y'all? Yeah, the girl from her class that was just, she got irritated at her all the time. And she said, I just want to study and y'all are ruining it for me. And she was reading, what is the name of the damn book? I'm about to pull it up because I think that's a very important scene in terms of, she's reading White Fang by Jack London. This scene was so monumental for me, and one that I automatically felt a connection to how I've felt about the book community on the internet as a whole, especially those who kind of ignore book banning and book challenging, right? So this, you have a character here who's ignoring the censorship that's happening. And yet she's like, you know, there's no law against me reading White Fang. It's a kid book about a wolf. So I'm going to read it. And then she flips it around and says, yeah, but there's another book, Iron Heel, written by that same author, published they're 2 years apart. And you're allowed to read White Fang, but you can't read that other book because that other book is a dystopian sci-fi about fascist ruling Korea. And so they've banned that book. They've censored you from getting access to that book. And you'd be taken to jail for reading that book. So it's not the danger in the authors, it's the danger in them seeing themselves as villains in these books. And it just made me think about the fact that you don't feel anything or you don't think about anything now because you feel like it's not impacting you, but you have to think about what are they trying to hide from you? What don't they want you to see? What don't they want you to know? What don't they want you to learn? Um, it was just such a pivotal moment for me about these individuals that don't see book banning and book challenging as something that is serious, not realizing how serious it can get. And we want to stop it before it gets worse than what it already is. Because um, in the upstate area of where I live, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Flamer by Mike Corrado. It's a young adult graphic novel. Um, it was removed from all of the public schools citywide, stripped out, taken out. It cannot be on any shelves. And so, stuff like that is so alarming to me. And for the next person who's like, well, I could just buy Flamer on Amazon, it just doesn't make any difference. Um, you have to start thinking in the lens of if they're willing to strip an entire city of a book or an entire city of schools from having access to this book, like what makes you think that they would not go a step further? What would make you think that they would not try to completely erase it? There's a reason why it is not protection. That's always the guise of, oh, it's protecting and keeping us safe. It is not protecting or keeping anybody safe. There's information that people just don't want you to have access to. So I think for me, reading this was, it was very much so like one of those moments where I felt like, dang, we are not, it's presenting itself differently because it's not a countrywide thing, meaning that because we have this separation of federal powers and state powers, that everything doesn't look super consistent. And so because it's such a pocketed thing, it's kind of hard to visually see how bad it is here. But reading this book for me was just like, holy shit. Like if this, we're talking, this took place in 83, it's 2024 and we're dealing with the same censorship issues. The same, at least for those of us who work as selectors, we're dealing with that fear of, if I buy this book, am I going to get into trouble? And it's sad because now we have to have seminars and conversations about self-censorship. Don't censor yourself because out of fear. And for some people, they have no choice because their livelihoods are on the line. You have people across this country who are losing their jobs. They are getting doxxed. Like it's not a joke, but because it's not consistently widespread, I think sometimes people lose. Yeah. People lose it, but yeah, yep. The news actually called it, and the book was talking about some college kids too. Then basically getting bombed for it. Wow. I'm gonna look more into it though. I didn't have time before we hopped on this to look more into it, but I need to. What the hell? That's crazy. So I took pictures of the press that passed over her bed. What? Yeah. October 1st. Mark that on our calendars. Let's look in the progress. Our marking would be fair. Okay, good. I'm glad. What the hell? Oh, I hate that she had to go through that. We are the frog in the pot, and the water's only getting hotter. Absolutely. Absolutely. Red Line was very insightful. Oh, I love the art too. The artwork in this was really, really good. I love the artwork. Huge point or huge point of interest for me was the art. Yeah. And it's the time jump for me that's mind boggling. And we like to proclaim that we don't engage in the same behaviors as some countries that are not in the West, but it's like, you're no better. And I wish we would stop putting ourselves on this platform or pedestal as if we don't engage in the same type of behaviors. The fact that you can just go and strip an entire system of access to books because you, as one individual, deem them inappropriate is crazy to me. It's such an ass backward concept when you really think about it. I don't care where it takes place, but it's like, you don't want the government to help people with things like feeding their kids, clothing their kids, making sure their kids have a roof over their house. You don't want that because it's too communist, it's socialism. You don't want that to happen. You don't work and pay all of this. You don't work so hard for the little bit of money that you get in order to help someone else out. That's not you don't like that system. But then you want to use the system to determine what books are appropriate for kids or not. I like that's the part of it that I genuinely will never understand. Like I know kids right now who sleep in DSS offices because there's not enough places for them to like homes for placement right now. But we're worried about a book with a queer character. But these kids don't have anywhere to sleep at night. They ain't got no food in their stomachs. Barely have any clothes on their back. But you worried about a book that a parent or guardian caregiver can choose not to give to their like that shit is stupid. Like there's no logic in any of that, and I don't care like how many ways people try to flip it, because I actually had this conversation this weekend where the person that I was talking to, I'm just gonna say it was my dad, because it was. I was trying to like, oh, I'm gonna beat it. No, it was my dad, and we were talking about um like certain issues and what content is appropriate or not appropriate for kids. And I kind of had to jump in and say like, hey, you know, I think that it's a parent's choice. I do not want another parent because there's not another parent in here raising my kid with me. um, I don't want any parent making any decisions in regard to my child at all because I don't make any decisions in regard to anybody else's child. What you deem is appropriate for your child is your business. I'm not going to tell you what you have to. I may suggest like, hey, it might be good if you expose your kid to these certain things because at the end of the day, when they walk out of your house and they're 18 and they're going to college, trade school, tech, or work industry, they're going to end up with people who do not look like them. It's just a matter of being in the greater world. But I can't force you to expose your kid to those things. And that's fine. That is your choice as a parent. But what is not your choice as a parent is to determine what the fuck happens in my house. Like that's a part of it. Like I won't ever get. I won't ever get it. Yeah, the reread value of it is high. It definitely is. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's the lack of like, and they like it that way, where like someone, in Georgia, even though they're not, I mean, they're right there up against Florida, they're not going to know exactly what's happening because even then, Florida is split into all these damn counties. So then and then everything is happening county by county, city by city. How do you keep up with it? Which is where you have these groups like Pen America, ALA, and then smaller grassroots organizations doing kind of the social media work, the word of mouth, the emailing, the advocating. That way, this information does get spread out as much as possible. It's become a more recent thing where um, it's become a more recent thing because it's become more of a recent issue because of the increased likelihood of, and it impacts more so school librarians. Um, And I won't say it doesn't impact public librarians, because it could impact them where someone will strip them of their funding and basically bring the library to its knees until it decides to abide by whatever laws or directives their board of directors has given them. School librarians, I feel like, do have it worse, because they don't have a whole system backing them up. Usually they're kind of like on their own handling the situation. And I really, really do feel for my colleagues that are in that side of the field. But it has gotten so bad in the sense that there's this fear of, if I buy this book, if it has queer representation, if it talks about Black history, if it, talks about, I don't know, anything gender, talking about puberty, because now puberty is just this huge issue. Puberty is now a huge issue. Books that illustrate what happens during puberty has become a huge thing. They're considered to be sexually explicit, which is so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me. So librarians now will censor themselves, meaning that if they see those topics, they will refrain from buying them out of fear. And so now these conversations and kind of like seminars, webinars, etc., are happening about how to make sure that you're not engaging in self-censorship. Yeah. True. Good point. So let's go with the story. It's easier to hate graphics when we have to work. Yes. Yes. The placement. I feel like we always have this, and Jess, you've been a part of this book club since the beginning. Like, I feel like that's been like a point of contention for all of us. And that's a huge criticism for us, like, or coming from us as a group, is that if text placement and layout do not work, you get deducted a star automatically. To the left, right, and center. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize any of that. I did. I liked her parents. I liked her dad a lot. And I liked how her mom kind of came around, and you kind of could empathize with the parents and understand why they were doing things the way that they were doing, especially when someone said that they had gotten so beat down and were just so tired and broken by the system that they just accepted it for what it was and didn't teach the new generation what exactly they were dealing with, which I think if we're not careful now and we continue to pull information, rewrite history books, call everything that teaches the true history of this nation critical race theory, we are setting the next generation up for failure. We're setting them up for failure, because how could you hide that stuff from them? And I just don't want the groups that are doing the work right now to get so broken down and beat down that you just kind of like you accept it and you say, you know what, it is what it is. That's it. No, I agree. I agree. It's not. I don't. I would not. I would not say this hyperbole. It is. It is. It's dark. It's dark times. It does. She blocked and singers to support the families. Wow. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Austin journalist got locked up and disappeared for years. Yeah, I have some reading to do of my own. I'm not scared to admit that. Because they dealt with their own generation, but they also understood. Yeah. Yeah, that scene at the end where all three of them are crying and hugging was definitely like a full circle moment where it was clear that they kind of understood what was going on. Because of steak. I felt really bad for him. Like, when he started talking about the other guy's awards, I said, why do I feel like he's finna get scammed? And he sure as hell got scammed. They took everything from that man. They took so much from him. They're barely saying, well, yeah, yeah. Yes. And I listen, I was hoping when I tell you my anxiety was through the roof when that cover, how he had that cover, the poetry cover over the actual book, it literally made my, because it was one panel where you could see the cover slipping and he went to hurry up and grab it and like move it back. And the guy didn't see it. And right when he was about to get out and the whole cover came off, I was like, damn. I said, they finna lock him up. And he did all of that time. All of that time. And never, you could never be the same after that. Like mentally, could never be the same after that. Yeah. Yeah. My heart was broke because he was literally the line was, you can go. And then that cover slipped and I said, oh shit. I was like, he's not about to get out now. To be honest with you, I thought they would kill him. So seeing him in that last panel and that he made it through all those years of prison was good, but I just knew they were going to kill him because he had never been to a protest. He knew like he was so, and the fact that it was like it's just another guy with a pair of same glasses as me, like you, and I mean the whole face was covered. How could you prove that that was him? And even the other guard was like, the kid that you have in there is much lighter than the person in this picture. Like, let him go. Like, he doesn't know anything. Yeah, yeah, that was and I love the illustrations in that scene though, because it was very like the close up, kind of like the zoom in effect. It felt very Charlie Chaplin type of effect. And then just the great capturing of the emotions in those panels, like especially the contrasting between the police officer and his face, the fear, and the kind of like sadistic excitement. Those two contrasting panels were just so brilliantly done. And I think artistically speaking, those two probably stood out to me art wise, more than anything else because there was so much emotion and tension and fear. And even as a reader, you feel so helpless because there's nothing that you can do to save him. And you know that like his fate at this point is so uncertain. So I liked it. I artistically, I really, really enjoy those two panels stacked against each other. Yeah, yeah, it did. It did. Yeah, I just knew. I just knew he was gonna die. And I mean, like, I thought he was gonna die or he was gonna break because the other kids had gone through that 48-hour torture. And like when they said, like, okay, we've been through it. We know what to anticipate. He will not be able to handle that. But he never broke. And like that, I think that broke my heart even more, the fact that he just never caved in to saying anything, but still ended up and wrote those poems about hope. I'm like, damn, like that whole scene was just so emotional. I think for me as a reader was like, this guy was writing poems about hope. Like, you're getting your ass beat, and every time they tell you like, say something, I have nothing to say. Beat your ass. Say something, I have nothing to say. Beat your ass, starts writing, and then just writes a poem about hope. And then continues to get his ass beat. Hair pulled, food shoved in your face. Like, ugh. Awful he was. Oh, I'm sorry, Erica. I'm sorry. I'm sending y'all so much love. Like, I've had a couple of moments, but I know that what I experience is nowhere near as intense as what y'all experience. Yep. Tore him up. That fire scene. That was a fire scene. She was like, cocktails, but I don't drink. It was her being so naive about, and then what was the moment where she was like, you tell me about a book club, then it's a band book club. You tell me that that we're doing it like a drum club, but then it ends up being like basically you're helping me rile up the crowd to protest. And so when they were going to the park, and she's like, "So is the going to the park? Is that code for something?" They're like, "No, we're just going to the park." She was so, um, she was so innocent to it all. She was so innocent to it all that it was cute. It was a cute type of innocence because that whole, yeah, we're gonna go make cocktails. I don't drink though. Like, girl, ain't nobody talking about liquor, not in that sense. That was a good scene. I really enjoyed that scene. There was some dark humor, yeah. Let's stay on the mental aspect. Yeah, I don't like people who go through torture and continue to withstand it. That takes some mental um that takes some mental strength that you never know if you'll have that until the moment and you really are down about what you're fighting for. So, um I'm glad you are, and y'all stay safe. I know it's being in a conservative area with still trying to give your kids full access to everything. Like, I know that's uphill battle, and I know your kids appreciate you, and I'm sure there are parents and caregivers and other educators who appreciate the work that you're doing, even if they're not always able to say it. We appreciate the work that you're doing. Exactly. I'm glad you're doing better. Yeah. 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 Definitely say. Getting the clearance from a college. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in liberal cities. I'm in a liberal city, and I deal with it as well. Um, it does happen in liberal cities. You have conservative groups that come in, and then self censorship that happens as a means of protection. It does happen in liberal cities as well. All right, y'all. Well, we I think I'm going to I think I'm going to rate it 4 stars. I'm going to go with 4 stars. Um, what was I about to say? I was about to say something else and lost my train of thought in real fucking time. That's wild. um, next month. That's what I was going for. Jeez, man. I'm a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, I always we talk about stuff, and I'll be like, my solid rating will be after I talk to y'all. Because y'all make things make sense sometimes that I'm not really able to get like a full grasp on. And so, Jessica, do you have the calendar typed out? Next month is our 3 volumes of manga, right? I'm not losing my mind, correct? Because, child, I still don't have this stuff written down, and here I am dependent upon you once again, because I know you have it typed out. I think we're back. We're back on schedule now. So October should be Attack on Titan Volume 1, Confessions of a Shy Baker, and Mob Psycho Volume 1. Let's say I know Jessica has it on the calendar, but those should be our 3 volumes of manga that we're reading in October. I am correct. Thank you. I will put it in the group really quickly, just in case. If you know what, Scott, it threw me off originally because of all the adjustments I had been making. So I didn't have it right, but now that we're back on track, I think okay. And all of these manga volumes should be available on Hoopla, because Hoopla got access to Kodansha and already had Dark Horse. It has a lot of Tokyo Pop stuff. So those are the 3 volumes. I said Attack on Titan 1, Confessions of a Shy Baker, Volume 1, and Mob Psycho, Volume 1. So that'll be a little bit of a change for us. This is our first time doing manga as a book club. We'll see how it goes, and maybe we can check out some other series next year. Still haven't decided. Hopefully next year's selections will be up November, December, somewhere around end of November, early December. We'll do the next round of selections for 2025. But it's been a great year. This has been a good, we've had some bangers this year, y'all. We really have. We've had some bangers this year, some things that we really, really liked. And then we fucking read Clementine. Me and Jessica are never gonna let that go. we're never going to let that go. But we have read some really, really good things this year. And some really, really, not a lot, but there were some things that were misses, and that's how it typically goes. But like always, I will see y'all at the end. The last Wednesday of next month is going to be October 30th, which is perfect. It doesn't fall on Halloween, so I don't have to worry about taking the kid trick-or-treating and then coming and having to run back home. So our next meeting will be October 30th at 8:30, and we'll be reading those 3 volumes of manga. Okay, Jessica said that Attack on Titan Volume 1 is also on Kindle Unlimited, just in case you don't want to use a Hoopla borrow, which shout out to you, because sometimes I do not like using my Hoopla borrows for book club. I have played Clementine in Forgotten Place. Clementine was trash. I think collectively we all hated Clementine, so that makes me feel better. But I will see y'all for book club next month. Remember, October 30th, 8:30, those 3 volumes of manga. Don't go back and read it. Listen to us. Don't read it. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Just don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it. But I will see y'all next month. Have a good evening. Good night.